the night, I hear him talk.
That is Kanye West, a rapper who has created some of the most critically acclaimed albums of all time, while at the same time spreading some of the most vile, hateful ideologies ever, cementing him as one of the most talented yet polarizing musical artists of the 21st century. But despite his countless controversies, he somehow always finds a way to come back. The man who claimed to be a Nazi in February of 2025 performed the largest stadium rap concert in American history in April of 2026. If it was literally anyone else, they would be ostracized from the public, but why not him? Why, after all this time, is Kanye still not cancelled? Why is he still not universally hated? Why again and again does he keep coming back bigger than before? Well, let's take a look back on Kanye's years of controversial actions to show you why he is truly uncancelable.
What race, what people, doctor.
This video and its contents are not an endorsement of Kanye West or any of his statements. This video is simply an analysis of Ye, his personal history, and his presence in pop culture. This video also discusses topics including anti-Semitism, Nazism, racism, abortion, divorce, and other divisive content. If you are sensitive to any of these topics, I recommend clicking off of the video. Kanye has been polarizing since 2005.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
But the makings of Ye's modern controversies begin in 2016. Kanye's 7th album, The Life of Pablo, would release on February 14th, 2016. To coincide with the album's release, Kanye would embark on the St. Pablo tour, which was supposed to run from August 25th, 2016 to December 31st of the same year. The keywords there being supposed to. On October 3rd, 2016, Kanye's wife Kim Kardashian would get robbed while in Paris. Kanye, who was performing in New York at the time, would end his set early to fly to Paris and support her. This caused some of the show dates to be needed to be rescheduled, but eventually the show would get back up and running once again. But then, on November 19th, 2016, in Sacramento, California, West would prematurely stop the show 3 songs in and begin a near 20-minute rant. He would begin by cursing out the radio industry, then would claim he's He would call out Beyonce for rigging the MTV Music Awards against Drake and himself. After this, he would call out Jay-Z, saying,
Jay-Z, call me, bro. You still ain't called me.
He would claim the information he was sharing would put his life in danger, accusing artists like DJ Khaled and Jay-Z of having shooters who would take him out for speaking his mind. He would spiral then into politics, speaking on the 2016 presidential election, claiming people were lied to about the election predictions through services like Google. As the rant continued, he gradually became more incoherent and told the journalists to get ready because they knew they were going to have a field day with this rant. And well, they did.
Get ready, because the show's over.
There was immediately outrage from people at the concert who wanted refunds for their experience being cut short. Kanye's relationships with Jay-Z and Beyonce would rapidly fall apart, and of course the media's view of him changed. A man once regarded as a genius who pushed the boundaries of art and music was now having a more critical lens laid upon him. Only 2 days later, a welfare check would be called on Ye, and he would be taken to the UCLA Health Center. During this hospital stay, West would be diagnosed with bipolar personality disorder, leading to the cancellation of the rest of the St. Pablo tour dates. He would be released from the hospital on November 30th, 2016. Soon after, he would withdraw into private life, not appearing in public for around a year and staying off Twitter, a platform he was very notorious for using. In this time away from the limelight, Kanye had secluded himself in Wyoming and began recording a new album. He had taken this private time to reflect on his bipolar diagnosis and the anger which culminated in the tour rant. Upon his return to Twitter, Kanye would share a text conversation between himself and fellow musician/artist West Lang. In the conversation, Kanye sends West a photo of a man with the attached text, "This is my album cover. This is plastic surgeon Jan Adams, the person who performed my mom's final surgery. Do you have any title ideas? I want to forgive and stop hating." West would respond, "Love everyone," to which Kanye says, "I love that." But this wouldn't last very long. In a TMZ interview very similar to that of the tour rant,
Just love Trump. That's my boy. Like,
Mr. West would infamously say,
you hear about slavery for 400 years? For 400 years, that sounds like a choice. Like, You was there for 400 years and it's all of y'all?
This statement would immediately stir up controversy. While Ye was still inside of the TMZ offices recording the interview, he would get into an argument with a TMZ staffer who was appalled by Kanye's statements.
Kanye, you're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to believe whatever you want. But there is fact and real world, real life consequence behind everything that you just said.
Bro, I'm sorry I hurt you.
You gotta be responsible, dog.
I'm sorry I hurt you, bro.
Your voice is too big.
As you might expect, these comments did not go over very well when released to the public. He would receive harsh backlash and condemnation from almost anywhere and everyone you could think of. Prominent figures in the African American community, musicians, online, traditional media outlets, etc., etc. This would reignite the fires of conversation around Kanye's personal life. People were beginning to see an emerging pattern of Ye coming out every few months and saying something crazy. Upon returning to Wyoming in May after the TMZ incident, Kanye would scrap Love Everyone and would begin reworking it into a new album. On June 1st, 2018, Kanye would release his self-titled album Ye, followed up by his collaborative album Kids See Ghosts with Kid Cudi a week later. The songs on both albums explore the themes of love, family, mental health, and how Kanye's bipolar ties into all those aspects of his life. Just look at the album cover for Ye, which reads, "I hate being bipolar, it's awesome." He's spelling out the dichotomy for all to see. So with two album releases that are incredibly introspective, you might think that he had learned from his hiccup with TMZ and that this would be his last public controversy, right? No. After the Wyoming albums, Kanye would not back down from politics. If anything, he was more politically involved than ever.
Everybody need Yandi. My cousin's mad at my auntie.
For months after the album's release, Kanye would continue his vocal support for President Donald Trump. This era was defined by Kanye being constantly seen in the red Make America Great Again hat. This was most evident in his September 2018 SNL appearance. He would show up in his red hat and would be asked to remove it backstage before the show, but he refused. So before the show even began, tensions were high. Then Kanye would go out to perform music to promote his newest project, Yandi. By the way, this performance is one of the funniest things I have ever seen. He comes out with artist Lil Pump to perform their song I Love It in these bottle outfits, and just looking at it cracks me up.
Real freak, I'm a real freak, I need a real freak. I'm a sick fuck, I like my dick nut, I like my dick nut. I'll buy you a sick truck, I'll buy you some news.
But in what is now typical Kanye fashion, he would go on a rant. He would speak on his support of Donald Trump, claiming that 90% of the news was controlled by liberals and that people were mind controlled by popular opinion and shame. Kanye would get into a confrontation backstage with cast members upset at him for getting on a soapbox to express his support for Donald Trump. And as is customary at this point, this would further degrade his already damaged reputation in the eyes of the public. This support of Trump would culminate in a highly controversial meeting between the two on October 11th, 2018 at the White House. It starts as a pretty standard Trump press conference where he covers his recent negotiations with North Korea. The conversation then transitions to the talk of freeing Larry Hoover, co-founder of the Chicago gang, the Gangster Disciples. But this then gives Kanye the green light to go on yet another rant. The rant here is very incoherent, and his mannerisms and refusal of others to talk is just very concerning. Like, seriously, go watch the full interview. It is a very hard watch.
This right here is the I-Plane 1. It's a hydrogen-powered airplane, and this is what our president should be flying in. Look at this shirt.
Throughout this Trump era, Ye was working on more music. As I said previously, he was working on a new album titled Yandi. The album was focused on exploring the ideas of spirituality and love, a different yet similar continuation of the themes present from the Wyoming albums. The album would be incredibly hyped up as Kanye's many media appearances in the news at the time put thousands of eyes on this next project. Though, the album would be delayed many times. Most famously, for one of the delays, Kanye would tweet, "To my fans, thank you for being loyal and patient. I cannot finish the album because there is a bee in the studio." But eventually, Yandi would be scheduled to release on September 29th, 2018. Social media would be flooded with posts about the album, and a giant billboard in New York City's Times Square would read Yandi 9/29/18. But when the day finally arrived, there was nothing. A few days later, Kanye would explain that the album was mostly unfinished as he was unhappy with its current state. He wanted the album to be perfect before he dropped it.
You said the album was coming out on Saturday. It didn't come out. What happened?
I didn't finish it.
And so, the album's release was up in the air going into early 2019. Then, during Ye's Easter 2019 Coachella performance, he would have a spiritual awakening. The set, in which he performed with the Sunday Service Choir, would deeply move him away from his current divisive mental state and into a far more stable one guided by Christianity. This would lead Yandi to not being released. Instead, its songs would be retooled for a new album, Jesus is King. The album would be well received, despite many mourning the loss of Yandi. And for quite a while, that was it. Kanye was seemingly in a much better mental state. He wasn't going on wild rants or making crazy news appearances. It seemed as if Kanye was a changed man. But if the red hat was hung up in 2019, then it would be replaced by the vest in 2020. Before we go any further, if you've made it this far in the video, then you should consider subscribing. I'm posting many more high quality video essays like this one, and these videos are a ton of time and effort, so any amount of support is greatly appreciated. Now let's get back to the video. Ahead of the 2020 presidential election, West would announce that he was entering the presidential race. For many reasons, this was seen as a joke, but to Kanye, he was dead serious. He had disavowed his support of Trump as he claimed that he hid in a bunker during many of the events of COVID-19. Kanye would create his own political party known as the Birthday Party because, quote, when we win, it's everybody's birthday. On July 19th, 2020, he would hold a presidential rally in Charleston, South Carolina. He would arrive at the event in a bulletproof vest labeled security. The event would start pretty normally. Kanye would bring people up from the audience onto the stage to share their opinions on politics and topics that are important to them, giving the event more of a town hall vibe rather than that out of a typical political rally that you would see. Kanye would also take on more of a teacher role by telling the audience to be quiet and respectful while the speakers would talk. But the event would quickly derail when Kanye says,
Well, Harriet Tubman never actually freed the slaves. She just had the slaves go work for other white people.
Y'all, we leaving right now.
Then he would give his opinion on abortion and recounted the story of how he initially wanted to abort his first daughter. He would begin to break down on stage saying, This transitioned him into talking about an abortion ban. This caused arguments between him and certain figures in the crowd. Eventually, the tension between Kanye and the crowd would reach a boiling point and Kanye would end the entire rally. This scuffed rally would kill any chances Kanye had of seeing the Oval Office. Come the day after the election, on November 3rd, 2020, he would concede. In total, he received 70,000 votes. After the election stint, Kanye would return to making music. The next album would be worked on throughout 2020 and well into 2021. Ye would host a listening party on July 22nd, 2021 at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, one day before the album's scheduled release on the 23rd. But Kanye would not finish the album in time for its release, so he would move into Mercedes-Benz Stadium for a couple months to finish it. He would live in the locker rooms and record and finish the album from there.
It's like 8 hours left to this. No chuckling and nothing, no kind of way. Alright, play Off the Grid.
A few days before the album's new scheduled release, Kanye putting the finishing touches on the album would be streamed by Apple Music, but never fully documented, so the stream is lost media. But clips of the live stream do remain online. Donda would finally release on August 29th, 2021. Following this would be a small period of relative calm, with the only thing notable about Ye being his music. He would release a deluxe edition of Donda and a sequel, Donda 2, that would release exclusively on the rather strange music device, the stem player. But Kanye's actions would catch up to him, and by the end of 2022, Kanye would be divorced by his wife Kim Kardashian. The two's relationship had been falling apart for years. Kanye's mental state had put their relationship under immense strain. Every time he went on a rant, talked about Trump, or expressed racist views, the pile of things tearing his family apart would grow. But the straw that broke the camel's back was his adoption of right-wing politics, beliefs that Kim strongly opposed. She also felt that him being so open with these beliefs put their family in harm's way. Although the relationship would hang on by a thread until Kanye's breakdown at his presidential rally. Kim would finally file for divorce in 2021, but it would not be finalized until the late months of 2022. And this finalization would send him over the edge. On October 8th, 2022, Kanye would tweet, I'm a bit sleepy, but when I wake up, I'm going Defcon 3 on Jewish people. The funny thing is, I actually can't be anti-Semitic because black people are actually Jewish. Also, you guys have toyed with me and tried to blackball anyone who opposes your agenda. What would ensue, somehow, makes everything that came before this look like child's play. While previously he had said immensely controversial things or was disrespectful to all those around him, the string of tweets that resulted from this episode would be pure hatred. It was like a 9/11 for Kanye fans. I actually remember where I was when I got the news of this tweet. I was pulling into my high school's parking lot the morning of the 9th and I opened my socials to see the tweet. If only my poor soul knew what was to come. Kanye would double down on his anti-Semitism in interviews right after the tweet came out, which is where these famous clips come from.
The thing about the red hat that drove me to a point of exhaustion, which was misdiagnosed by I'm not going to say what race, what people, doctor, and what hospital, and what media went to. We know I can't say that. It was a Jewish doctor.
He would then say that any backlash he received was censorship by Jewish people. He would then create White Lives Matter shirts for Paris Fashion Week. He would be seen at a Yeezy event in the city wearing them alongside conservative commentator Candace Owens. But now, Kanye would swiftly have action taken against him by the brands he was close with. His aforementioned apparel brand Yeezy would lose its deal with Adidas. This meant that he lost out with production, design, distribution, and advertising, as well as losing the money he made off of royalties from purchases. It is estimated that overnight, Kanye lost billions of dollars. Yes, billion with a capital B. Then his bank JP Morgan would cut ties with him, closing his accounts, essentially cutting him off to his own money until he was able to transfer it to another bank. Going into December, Kanye would just keep the hate train going. He would go on Alex Jones' podcast InfoWars and I'll just let the clips speak for themselves.
I see good things about Hitler also. Done with the classifications, every human being has something of value that they brought to the table, especially Hitler.
After this, Kanye would essentially be totally shut out by the media. He couldn't say anything controversial because, well, he had nowhere to say it. Any attempts for him to get back onto Twitter or Instagram were swiftly shut down every time they were attempted, and no one was willing to speak to him. He was a PR disaster to associate with. He would also pick up an addiction to nitrous oxide, aka laughing gas, allegedly getting a supply from his personal dentist, who also allegedly provided the substance to countless other celebrities, which only made his mental state worse. Despite all these challenges, he would still continue to produce music. His next album would be the collaborative project Vultures with the rapper Ty Dolla $ign. The album was supposed to be a trilogy, with each volume releasing only about a month apart. Ye's time away from the internet had led to his past remarks being a distant memory for many, leading to a small but still sizable fanbase of individuals getting excited for the album's release. Vultures 1 would eventually come out on February 10th, 2024. The album was released to mixed reception. Some would hail the album as another beautiful addition to Ye's discography, while others widely considered it to be his worst album at the time. A lot of the discourse around the album was centered on Kanye's statements within the music. His crass and anti-Semitic remarks had soaked their way into many songs, a major change. No longer were his controversial remarks separated from his music. Famously, this led to the acclaimed music critic Anthony Fantano calling the album unreviewable.
This is completely unreviewable trash.
But the album would have a major hit in the song Carnival, which was considered by a great many Kanye fans a top 10 Kanye song at the time, until the Tik Tok Rizz Party assassinated it. Regardless, Kanye was back in the public consciousness, for better or for worse. A very delayed Vultures 2 would release on August 3rd, 2024, and oh boy, was it some hot ass. Vultures 2 is widely considered to be Kanye's worst album, and for good reason. It's just kinda terrible. Very few good songs, not at all meeting the quality standard of his older albums. Many cite internal differences between Ty and Kanye for the poor quality, as well as Kanye's ever-declining mental faculties at the hand of the nitrous and bipolar. And the numbers support this. Vultures 2 was his least streamed and worst selling project. In addition to this, Vultures 3 would never release, as Ye and Ty Dolla $ign stopped working together after the release of the album, ushering us into a new era. If the Defcon 3 tweet was 9/11 for Kanye fans, then the February 5th, 2025 tweets are like the towers collapsing and the Pentagon getting hit. Ye would just lose it. There is no other way to say it. He would just absolutely lose his mind. He would go on a multi-month-long tweeting spree, just saying the most vile. My mastery of the English language is not strong enough to describe what happened on this day, so I'm just gonna have to show you. But it wasn't just the tweets, he would also create music, unfortunately. Now the ensuing era could be its own hour-long video, so for the sake of time, I will have to breeze through this, but just know, there is so much more to unpack here than what I'm about to talk about. The music would begin with the single World War III, a song covered in Nazi imagery and just generally filled with hate. Then came Cousins, a song in which Kanye describes a gay, incestuous relationship with his cousin he had while they were both minors. Yes, I know, that is an insane bombshell to drop, but there is just truly no time to analyze it. We just have to move on. Then would come the last single, the metaphorical third impact for Kanye's career, HH, a song in which the chorus goes, despicable. And all of these things would be for an album that he was working on named Cuck, an album that was full of songs on the same level as those tracks. But thank the Lord above, Cuck never saw the light of day, only ever being heard by the public due to a leak by a pro-Jewish hacking organization who got their hands on the album. So it seemed that Kanye's career was just dead in the water. Everyone hated him, and he was releasing the musical equivalent of dog in Vultures 2 and Cuck. Somehow though, our story does not end here. Now, all of that bull surrounding Cuck happened around March of 2025, But after that, in May, Kanye seemingly had a change of heart and would censor the songs on streaming services, removing any mentions of Hitler or similar anti-Semitic rhetoric. HH would even be renamed to Hallelujah, with the anti-Semitic lyrics being replaced with positive Christian lyrics instead. Ye would also stop his hate-filled tweets, tweeting out, "I am done with anti-Semitism" on May 2nd, 2025. But this does not mean that he was free from consequences. Going back in time a bit, Kanye's earlier remarks would get him banned for performing in the United States. Promoters like Live Nation and AEG barred him from essentially every major venue in the US. These are groups that set up arena and stadium concerts, as well as events for most venues across the country. So by being barred from their services, Kanye was for all intents and purposes shut out of the US. This turned Ye to a place he was quite fond of: Asia. Ye would perform in China on September 15th, 2024 as part of the promotion for Vultures 2, which had been released the month prior. During this concert, Kanye would preview the song Beauty and the Beast, a track from his next project, Bully. The song was very well received, and so people got excited for this next album. But soon after, Kanye would begin his infamous February rant and then went on to announce Cuck, so it seemed like Bully had been scrapped like dozens of Kanye projects before it. But then, in March, Kanye would release Bully V1, a short film containing the current state of the album at the time. Then came May, when Ye began to move past his issues. In June, he released 2 EP versions of Bully that featured new music and finally put some form of Bully on streaming. Then for months on end, the album would be delayed. Every week, a new rumored release date was circulating online. Eventually, a Bully pre-save would appear on streaming platforms, but the pre-save date would get pushed back constantly. It seemed as if the album would never see the light of day. But in March of 2026, everything would change. Ye would sign to the record label Gamma, seemingly locking in an official advertising and production deal, and a new release date of March 20th, 2026 would be set. This date would quickly be pushed back by 1 week to the 27th to account for vinyl production, but this time, as the date drew closer, there would not be any new delays or controversy surrounding Kanye. The night of the 27th, multiple listening parties in small venues would be set up from coast to coast across the US. After a bit of a scuffed start, the listening parties would begin slightly behind schedule. LA1 would be streamed on YouTube and would pull hundreds of thousands of concurrent viewers. But once the listening parties were over, nothing. No music on streaming, absolute silence. It wouldn't be until the wee hours of the morning on the 28th that Bully would finally release. And what happened next was totally unexpected. Bully would be met with critical acclaim. Many touted it as his best work since pre-Donda. It was hailed as a return to form for the man. Outlets that had shredded Vultures gave Bully glowing reviews. The album would debut at number 2 on the Billboard 200. Blocked by BTS is already wrong, because BTS fans got into a streaming war with Ye fans. Though, it would debut at number 1 on the Billboard rap charts. It would sell 201,000 units in its first week in the US, and would become the number 1 most listened to album on Apple Music. A stark contrast to the flops Kanye was releasing only 2 years prior. And now, we have returned to our stories beginning. On April 1st and 3rd of 2026, Kanye would hold 2 concerts at SoFi Stadium in California. This marked his first performance in the States in over half a decade. His last performance was the Free Larry Hoover benefit concert with Drake in December of 2021. Both concerts would totally sell out, and Night 2 would become the largest stadium rap performance in American history. Not only that, Kanye would bring out legendary guest stars Travis Scott, CeeLo Green, and Lauryn Hill, one of Kanye's biggest inspirations and the creator of one of the most influential hip-hop albums of all time. So how, despite all these horrible things I just recounted to you, did Kanye return to the limelight? What changed between Vultures and Bully that allowed Ye to end up back on top? Well, I believe that there are 3 major reasons. The first reason is pretty simple. People forgave him. See, unlike many other celebrities who do or say terrible things, Ye has a bit of an excuse. He is bipolar. For many people, they do not see Kanye as a stable man saying these things or performing these actions while in the right state of mind. They see him battling his mental illness and understand that the things he does are not reflective of his real beliefs. The science also backs this up. Bipolar can cause you to say harmful things that are not indicative of your real beliefs. Then, when he gets out of his bipolar episode and tries to make amends, people are much more willing to forgive him. It's also helped by the fact that he does real, genuine apologies. There's so many other artists who will do something bad and then put out the most half-assed apology. Just look at Travis Scott. This dude at a concert where 10 people died and this was his apology.
I just want to say that prayer today. So much lost last night. We're actually working right now. Studying about families. So we have this stuff. My fans really enjoy me, and I always just really want to positive experience. And anytime I think out, anything that's going on, not showing, help me eat, I just never imagine this situation. Working closely with everyone.
Or in a much less extreme example, look at Chapel Roan's apology for sending her security on an 11-year-old fan.
I did not ask the security guard to go up and talk to this mother and child. They did not come up to me.
Dude, it's actually killing me. She does not give a But when Kanye apologizes, there is a level of sincerity that is hard to find. To apologize for the February rant and subsequent music, he took out a full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal in January of 2026. He takes accountability for his actions and explains how his disability affects him. And only 2 months earlier in November, he had met with rabbis in New York to express deep remorse for the things he said. So people see his real attempts at forgiveness combined with his disability and are able to find it in their hearts to forgive him. But there's more to it than just his mental illness. In the intro, when I said that he was one of the most critically acclaimed artists of all time, that was no exaggeration. At the time of recording, he has 24 Grammys and is the 11th most awarded artist in the award show's history. Because Kanye's music is legendary. That is the second reason he can't be cancelled. Kanye is arguably one of the greatest discographies of all time. It is a running joke among Kanye defenders that he, quote, made graduation, and that because he made such a legendary album that he is absolved of all wrongdoing. But there's a bit of a hint of truth to it, in the sense that he made such a good catalog of music that people are going to be listening to his work regardless of what he's doing. And regardless of if you personally like his music or not, you have to admit that it is at least high quality. His beats, lyricism, vocals, and creativity are always of an insanely high caliber. He got big off his production for a reason. Ye is potentially the greatest producer of all time. Even in the height of his bipolar, he was still cooking up insane beats. Like, lyrics aside, if you listen to the leaked version of Cuck, there is some crazy beats on there. One of the most streamed songs on Bully, All the Love, reuses the beat from a song titled Gas Chambers from Cuck, and it is still managing to pull millions of streams. So with over 20 years of high quality music, he has cemented himself into pop culture. Just look at his fourth album, 808s and Heartbreak. It pioneered the use of autotune and synthetic drum pads in hip hop. And nowadays, you would be hard pressed to find a rap album that does not do at least one of those two things. There is this famous graphic that depicts all of the musicians who were created or inspired by 808s and Heartbreak. While there's some inaccuracy with it, the core idea is still there. Without this one album, vast amounts of the music industry would not exist. And like half of his albums are in the same vein to 808s, generational influence after generational influence. But it's not just his release music that people love. Kanye has multiple unreleased albums that would go triple platinum if actually released. Many times I've heard people say that if Yachty was to be released, it would have created world peace. And honestly, I cannot blame them. I have many of the leaked Yachty songs on my local files on Spotify. And it's not just Yachty though. His unreleased work is one of the most common topics of discussion in his fanbase. Good Ass Job, Yeezus 2, So Help Me God, TurboGrafx 16, Calabasas is the New Abu Dhabi, War, Vultures 3, and so many more albums being talked about and praised constantly. Yet, none of them are released, but the leaked unfinished versions of the albums are somehow still so high quality that people have garnered huge followings for them. Allow me to inject a personal anecdote here. I have someone very close to me who absolutely hates Kanye. She hates him as a person and everything that he stands for. But recently, we were discussing Bully in his concert at SoFi Stadium, and she said something that totally bewildered me. Yeah, if Kanye came to town on tour, I'd buy tickets. My jaw was on the floor. She had disavowed him for years and on numerous occasions made fun of me for listening to his music. But she'd buy tickets? Then when I pressed her on this hypocrisy, she said, as much as I hate the guy, he does make incredible music. It was living proof of exactly what I just argued. Even if you don't like his statements, you have to admit that he makes good music unlike no one else. It also isn't just his music that people love, it's his fashion. Yeezy is a brand adored by many for its affordability, quality, and willingness to push boundaries. During the height of Ye's February crash out, he relaunched Yeezy, and somehow, despite everything he was doing, it was a financial hit. He made over $2 million in one day, and in the coming weeks regained his billionaire status. You don't just get that much in sales from your diehard fans alone. There was a vast amount of people who did not like him and were still buying his clothing. That is the power of Kanye's brand. Lastly, people are unaware of his actions or just plain don't care. Starting with the unaware aspect, we don't live in an age where people care about celebrities anymore. No longer are people glued to their TVs every night to watch a talk show that delves into the life of whatever celebrity guest is on that night. Tabloids aren't in high demand. People have more important things to care about than what famous people are doing. The age of celebrity worship is over. Like, I have met plenty of people who didn't even know that Kim and Kanye got divorced. So plenty of people are going about their days listening to his music without a care in the world. Second, there are people who just flat out don't care anymore. They might be aware of the things he's done, but either A, it doesn't affect them, or B, it isn't something they care about. This group doesn't care about cancel culture or what others think. If they like the music, then they're gonna listen to it. Simple as that. They aren't gonna let popular opinion control what they can and cannot do. So that is how Kanye made himself uncancelable. He has taken steps to make amends for what he's done. He is a victim of mental illness that people are sympathetic to. He has released some of the greatest music of the 21st century, and we live in an age where people just don't care what he does. But with all that being said, I want to challenge the narrative that I've just created. Because while the comeback he did with Bully is very impressive, it was just that, a comeback. See, while Kanye may be uncancelable, he isn't untouchable. The idea that Kanye is uncancelable, while rooted in a lot of truth, does have some flaws with his logic. It makes it sound as if Ye was able to walk away scot-free from all the he did, but that is just not true. To start, his personal life absolutely blew up. His wife divorced him and he has to pay $200,000 a month in child support. His relationship with close friends like Tyler the Creator, Kid Cudi, Pusha T, Playboi Carti, and most notably, his biggest mentor and greatest inspiration, Jay-Z, all fell apart. He essentially isolated himself from longtime collaborators and loved ones who all meant the world to him. Then there's the financial aspect. Like I said earlier, Kanye would lose billions. His peak net worth was around $6.6 billion. Then after the loss of sponsors, brand deals, Adidas, and his divorce, he lost his billionaire status. This put Ye's net worth somewhere in the mid 100 million range, which by no means makes him poor or unwealthy, but that is a ludicrous amount of cash to burn. To put that 6 million number into perspective, there are around 40 to 50 countries who have a GDP lower than that. So roughly around 25% of the world would collapse if they lost the same amount of money as him. If that does not count as cancellation, I do not know what does. Third, he was banned from performing. Like I said earlier, he was blocked from every major venue across the United States, and technically, he still is. The only reason he was able to perform at SoFi Stadium was because he bypassed Live Nation and others and went directly to the stadium owners to organize the event. But despite this, he is still technically banned from performing all across the country. For him to set up a traditional stadium tour, it would take an enormous amount of work. Also, not just the US he was banned from. See, Ye was supposed to be the headliner for the Wireless Festival in the United Kingdom. The initial announcement of his headlining of all 3 nights was met with an overwhelming amount of support. Soon after, Pepsi would remove their sponsorship from the festival. Then the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced that the government would look into whether they wanted to allow his performance. Then quickly after, they reached their answer, that being no. The announcement would be followed by a tweet by Keir Starmer tweeting, "Kanye West should never have been invited to headline Wireless. This government stands firmly with the Jewish community, and we will not stop in our fight to confront and defeat the poison of anti-Semitism. We will always take action necessary to protect the public and uphold our values." As a result of this, Kanye would be banned from entering the UK. The entire festival would then shut down. Once again, I do not know what sounds like being cancelled more than not just being banned from performing, but being banned from an entire nation. Second to last, Kanye's music releases were devastated by his anti-Semitism. While Jesus is King, Donda, and Vultures 1 all performed decently well, Vultures 2 and Donda 2 were received very poorly. Both albums are his least streamed projects. Now you might be saying, well, didn't Donda 2 not even release on distros? Didn't come out on that weird stem player thing? And to that I would say, you are half correct. See, initially Donda 2 was locked behind stem player ownership, but as Ye was exiting his bipolar episode in May of 2025, he would release the album on distros. While he was on a live stream in Spain with Sneeko, Neon, and his producer Digital Nas, I have no explanation as to why these people were together. Do not ask me. Someone in the chat would say,
drop Donda 2. They love saying Donda 2.
Okay, when can we drop Donda 2?
Right now.
How do we do that?
Hit up 2 Laws.
This dude really asked, how do we do that? My brother in Christ, it's your music. Anyways, he would enter this strange 2-week period where he locked in and worked on making adjustments to the album, then released it to streaming. But Donda 2 would do piss poor. It wouldn't even debut in the charts and sold roughly 6,000 copies. As Twitter user Duff Juice beautifully put it, Kanye sold off his integrity and morals just to go triple styrofoam. Was it worth it, you moron? And this is exactly how it felt at the time. It never felt like he would be able to garner support around any new music releases again. It is mainly because Bully is such a good album that Ye was able to save his career from the depths of hell. He knew what was at stake if he had a 3rd flop in a row, and so he locked in for Bully's release. So while my analysis that his pop culture presence has made him uncancelable rings true, he did face backlash in orders of magnitude relative to what he did. It is simply that his artistic abilities are so good that it's able to save him from the he's done. We've seen it with Jesus is King, to an older extent we've seen it with My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, post Taylor Swift VMAs incident, and now we've seen it again with Bully. Let's just hope that we don't need to see another comeback album from him anytime again. So is Kanye West truly the uncancelable man? To an extent, yes. He is a man plagued by mental illness who created albums that have cemented him an everlasting legacy in pop culture. No matter what he says or does, there will still be millions of people who are listening to his work. His albums are timeless classics that people will cherish for generations to come. But despite this, he isn't free from consequence. He nearly ended his career by releasing some horrid albums, his wife divorced him, he lost millions of dollars and is banned from entire countries, and millions of people will never heal from all the harm he caused. Yet, his art will persist for decades to come, and a legacy like his is a damn hard thing to take down. So that, my friends, is why Kanye West is uncancelable.
After everything said, huh? Rain, rain. After everything said, huh? Rain, rain. Crazy, bipolar, anti-Semite, and I'm still the king. Still.